using the feint off a couple of screens. Esquivel to Garcia. Off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
There's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. The field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved. What a game.
Smack to the left. That is gone.
Rafa Perez. That's my play. Off the backboard. Counting and a win. And a win. Brian Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go nuts. And why not?
Welcome one and all once again here to another Luke Fruia show, another sports talk. And I mean, this one's going to be fun. So again, of course, this is probably the last one of the year of 2025. Of course, next weekend, or next Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, is the 24th. And so that's going to be pretty interesting to say the least. Most likely won't be here if I had to guess. But of course, well, I'm Jacob Young. This is Rio Sports Live Network. And while we're here at Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac, if you're in the market for a new car, we'll come check it out here in Brownsville, Texas, off of Old Alice Road, Price Road to be exact. That's the exit that you take off the freeway. But before, of course, we start off with this show, breaking down, of course, all the games that are this weekend for the final week before we have, I believe, 5 days or so after the championship week of high school football, which is, of course, at Jerry World. Congratulations to the Texas A&M women's volleyball team. Of course, thought I'd start off with it because that was a massive, massive victory. And, of course, it ties in perfectly. And, of course, if, we ever have the chance, and I hope that one day, of course, maybe, of course, in 2026, we'll get the chance to sit down and chat with one of the players on the Aggie volleyball team. That would be Amari Hernandez. And so, of course, let's just break down very quickly, of course, for anybody who missed it. Texas A&M University in the SEC championship, or in the SEC tournament for the volleyball team. They went all the way down to, I believe, the semifinals and lost in the semis. And lost, I believe, to their rivals at Texas, and then all of a sudden, Texas won the SEC title. They were the given 1 seed, to be exact. Kentucky was a 1 seed. Texas were the 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Texas A&M fell to a 3 seed. They needed to win the tournament to most likely have a top seed, which would have meant that they would have hosted throughout the whole entire tournament. Instead, they hosted the first 2 rounds, which was awesome, and then they were matched up in the Lincoln bracket, which means they would have to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, and if they were to make it to the Elite 8 or the regional finals, to be exact, most likely that would be against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, which the Nebraska Cornhuskers, of course, are crazy stat of the whole entire tournament, or the whole entire, just their seasons were absolutely insane. Looking for a 4th straight NCAA bid to the Final Four for the Nebraska Cornhuskers volleyball team. And Texas A&M came into that side of Lincoln after making it to the Sweet 16, but made a reverse sweep in the end to defeat them. And then in the regional finals, defeated the Nebraska Cornhuskers in 4 sets. Check that, in 5 sets. We're up 2-0. That was the first time that Nebraska had lost sets at home, I believe, that season, or something crazy like that. And just the facts down the line for the Cornhuskers were crazy. They hadn't lost at home since 2022. And to do it in the tournament as well was something unexpected, to say the least. So that was something pretty interesting. to say the least. So, Texas A&M University, for the first time since 2002, make it to the Elite Eight, and then for the first time in team history, make it to the Final Four. Player on that team graduated from McAllen Memorial High School in 2022 to be exact, which is pretty crazy for her to graduate. Amari Hernandez, like we mentioned, she graduated, yes, in 2023, and has been playing with Texas A&M University since. Signed with them in a D1 school and has been on this team, on this journey with the new head coach that they've had. The success that he's brought has been something that no one would have expected, something extremely special for them. And sure enough, Texas A&M now is in the Final Four for the first time in their program history. I can't wait to see how they do up in Kansas City, beating Nebraska. Everyone was upset the way that they came back after losing set number 4. Remember, it's to 25, but you have to win by 2. And came back and won 15-13 in set 5. After being up 2-0 in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's how good Nebraska are. Then another number 1 seed off the other side of the bracket lose to Wisconsin. Another 3 seed off the other side of the bracket in Austin. Makes things great for A&M. They get to play against Pitt, and then Wisconsin get to play against Kentucky. So very exciting to see how it all plays out in the Final Four at the T-Mobile Center up in Kansas City, Missouri. But again, welcome into the show. We have a lot to talk about here, of course, as I have a packed day ahead of me once again. The whole entire week has been something out of the ordinary for RSL, Real Sports Live Network. I will be honest about it. We've not necessarily had so many games, especially around this time of year. And from just the start of it, the media days from Sunday to Monday, having Harvest Christian Academy basketball to cover. Tuesday, covering the Wesco High basketball team last night, to be exact. Wednesday, doing the show. Wednesday night, apparently there's a game, STCA, South Texas Christian Academy. They're at home. And so we'll be covering that game. First time at that gymnasium, should be interesting. Thursday, there are still some games, I believe, with, I won't be covering it, but we get the correct title of the team very quickly, as it is, because I get confused. Sometimes I say a team, and it's actually a different team from what they are, and it's medical professions. They're going to play against Idea San Benito, and then the girls are going to play against Idea San Benito. The boys are going to play against Idea Brownsville. Don't know how that happens where they play two different San Benito or Brownsville schools for Idea, how they don't play the same ones. It's kind of interesting in my eyes. And then Friday, of course, there's a lot of games to look at, from Mission Vets playing against Mission. That one is 6 and 7:30. Brownsville Pace is playing Brownsville Lopez. Lyford's playing Real Hondo. Sherryland High are playing against Nicky Rowe. That one's going to be amazing for the boys and girls basketball games. It's at 1:30 and 3. That's at Friday. So it's the most packed week I think I've ever seen for Rio Sports Live Network, and it's phenomenal. I'm all here for it, and I'm thankful to be a part of it as well, because that means, well, there's work. That means that we're able to bring you all coverage, and that's what we're here for. It's pretty cool for that, and if it's worth it, which it is, we'll take it. And it's awesome. Of course, this weekend also starts off with the playoffs of college football. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, of course, some predictions for these games coming up this weekend. It is officially bowl season. Bowl season started off this last Saturday, officially with, of course, one of the FCS bowl games that they had, South Carolina State and none other than Prairie View A&M. That was a historically black colleges and university bowl game, to be exact. And then the first official FBS bowl was that night as well. It was the Washington Huskies. They took the field against the Boise State Broncos. And Boise State ended up losing to the Washington Huskies. And so the Washington Huskies taking that victory was pretty cool in my eyes. And that really kicked off bowl season, because then Sunday, of course, was the NFL, and Monday as well as that. Tuesday, though, we had a pretty good bowl game last night. It was Jacksonville State. They were taking on Troy, and Jacksonville State just ended up winning in the end over the Troy Trojans, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, Troy missed a field goal late in the game, and that was kind of the difference in it. Instead of it being 17-16 when Jacksonville State scored their last touchdown, it was 17-13. And so made things interesting for that game. Once again, bowl season is right upon us. Tonight is another bowl game. Thursday will be another bowl game. But Friday will be the college football playoffs first round, which should be very exciting. Oklahoma Sooners taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Oklahoma Sooners at home. They have the Friday night game at 7 p.m., which is exciting. And then Saturday at 11 a.m., well, really 10 a.m. to be exact, you have College Game Day. I guess that starts at 9. And then 11 a.m. is kickoff for Miami, Florida. They take on the Texas A&M Aggies. Should be very fun. Then, of course, that really gets the ball rolling for all of those. And, of course, Sunday is with 3 weeks left of the NFL season, so that'll be interesting to see. And then really just going on from there. So we're all looking forward to it. It's that festive time of year. And again, I think the following week after that, that might start off the 5 days of no games or something of that sort for UIL. And because of the holiday week, to be exact. So looking forward to all of this and looking forward to bringing you all coverage. There's still a lot, of course, that we will also talk about, too. One of the things will be, of course, we'll still talk soccer. We'll talk a little Trinity Rodman, where that has led us to. And then, of course, the biggest news coming out from yesterday, that it wasn't necessarily, it was confirmed by a lot of sources, but it wasn't until this morning that we had it officially confirmed by the club itself, the Portland Thorns. They and Sophia Wilson have officially agreed to terms, not on a contract, but Sophia Wilson has agreed to use her player option. We'll talk more about that here coming up very soon, because it's just going to be exciting. Let's jump into some high school basketball, though, very quickly. High school basketball, of course, last night we had some close scores for you all. The Wesco Panthers, I also wanted to call them the Wesco Huskies, but it was just due to, well, it's really cool. So for the first time in my career, at least here on RSL Network, we got to cover the Wesco Panthers at the Wesco Panthers place for a regular season game, not a tournament or anything like that. And so that was something that was really cool to see and witness for the Panthers, and just for myself, because normally they have their own crew. It's K West, which is completely fine if they're able to cover them. That's perfect. They're, of course, the school and all of that. So we were able to set up right on the second deck. We had internet, everything that we could really ask for, and got to see, of course, the girls basketball team play at home and got to see the boys basketball team play at home. They were impressive. Two impressive teams for two games that started off their district play and a possible district title run. These two teams, they look like the most complete teams in the RGV for 6A. What does that mean? Especially for the boys, they have a lot of height, and the way that they've dished around the ball very well and scoring layups and just all around their shooting capabilities were good. For the boys basketball team, they played against the Harlingen Cardinals. The Harlingen Cardinals ended up losing just in that second half. It was very difficult, and the Cardinals, well, unfortunately, they just could not get the ball rolling when they needed to. For the Harlingen Cardinals, in that second half, they scored maybe about 4 points just in that second half, or just in that third quarter alone. And then in the second half, in the fourth quarter, I should say, they were able to close the gap up to at least close to 20. I believe they lost by 24. It was 60-44, I believe, your final. Let me just tell you exactly the final score very quickly because I did write it down. So it was 66-40. There we go, 66-40, your final score. The way that the play was able to be was very good. So congratulations to the Wesco Panthers for being successful and going 1-0 in district play, and looking forward to seeing how they'll do this season because there's still a long road ahead. But the way that they look like they may be the favorites for this season indeed in 6A, in Division in 32 6A to be exact. On top of that, getting past the by-district round and getting past potentially the area round. We move on. On Sunday, I was able to be a part of the Upper Valley Media Days for soccer. If any of you all were able to watch that, it was a blast to be a part of, and there were so many great interviews that I was able to do with, of course, players, a couple of coaches, and it was something special because I've never done that before with just a big group where there was one after another, and being at the media days was special. Getting to talk to so many players, getting to talk to so many teams. I mean, that's what it's about in the end, especially for coverage down here in the Valley for soccer, for some strange reason, is not popular at all. It's almost non-existent for soccer in the Valley, in the RGV. I can even remember the start of the season, the start of football season. What's at the start of football season as well? College soccer. There was no talk about UTRGV soccer this season. There was no talk about TSC soccer besides from us. And that's something that, of course, is just, it's unfortunate. For the TSC side, maybe a little different. For UTRGVs, a little different as well. Because, well, at least for UTRGV, they're getting players from internationally from around the estate and around the nation as well, to try to get players to come down to play for them. But really, football kind of took over once again. And so you go into the soccer side of things, and for this, it's just where you have state runner-ups left and right, where you have state champions almost every other year. It's crazy, to say the least, for the state champs. And it just blows my mind. What I'm trying to say here is it just, when there's chances for teams to win state, it seems like it's a lot less of a thing to be rooting for in the Valley. Yes, of course, we had that one football run about a year or two ago for the Brownsville Veterans Memorial High School football team. The Chargers, they had a run that may not be touched for years to come. As for soccer teams have those runs every year. Getting to the state semis every year. Getting to the state finals almost every year. Getting to the regional finals in girls soccer just about every year. If not the regional semis. Something that we don't see too often in other sports. My whole point is support. Support girls soccer, support boys soccer in the Valley, because Valley soccer is always on a rise, and they always have a chance to make it state and win a title. St. Joseph Academy did it not too long ago in soccer. Whole point is the support and the coverage just is not there for teams that are, for players, for coaches that are working so much and bringing home results back to the RGV. That's just how I feel. Of course, yeah, that's always my rant every single year is how it feels because, well, let's be honest, it's kind of true. And that's why, as much as possible on this show, I do like to talk about soccer. I try to get on a lot of people with soccer, of course, background and, of course, racing background. We will have some racing talk, of course, to talk about because that's still going to be a case here. But like I mentioned, the Upper Valley, just getting to talk with them was special beyond belief. Talking to Coach Matthew Kaiser, he was the only one that I got to pull from McCallum Memorial, but it was still so cool to talk to him and getting his perspective, his side of, his daughter going to Oklahoma, how that happened, and how this team is very special. They're not on he says, and this was quoted, they're not on a rebuild. They're on a reload with some players that were injured a year before that did not get to see the field because of that, now coming back this year. So look out for them, the Mackay Lady Bulldogs as well. It was really cool to talk to them about their upcoming season as well and saying, of course, team that we want to beat, it's McCallum Memorial. Getting back to that regional semis and potentially to that regional finals and a state berth would be epic. And that was really cool for all of those teams. And then, of course, later in the day, getting to talk to Progresso, getting to talk to Valley View, getting to talk to Hidalgo, and all three of those schools are looking for some revenge on each other. Of course, for Progresso, we all know the season last year that they had. It's left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. But the Progresso Red Ants, they're ready for it. They're ready to go back there and to actually win it all this time fairly and correctly. And they do have a lot of teams to beat. That's Valley View. That's Hidalgo in the 4A ranks. And so those three teams, that's going to be exciting to see how they can prove that they are the best in the RGV. And that, of course, a berth to state would be them versus a Hidalgo. It's always exciting. Moving on. Really, well, moving on about that day, it was really cool to be able to talk soccer all day long, and that's something that I live for. It's something that I strive for because, as I've said before, really my top sports that I love to cover, that I know to cover for the rest of my life. You've got that college sports because that's just I love it. Then right after that, you have your soccer, you have motor racing right there. That's also on a completely different realm of things that I love to cover because that is its own list. Because there's just so many in between those for motorsports. Um, and then right after that, of course, is NHL hockey because I am a hockey guy, and so it's really cool. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. The season really gets going in a couple of weeks. Couldn't be any better. But yes, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we return, we are going to stay with the soccer side, but we'll go a little bit on the professional side. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Rev up your future with Texas Southmost College's Auto Body Repair Program. In just 2 semesters, you'll gain the skills to become an auto body repair specialist. Learn using industry standard iCar Academy to get you job ready fast. If you're ready to drive your career forward, TSC's Auto Body Repair Program is the place to start. Classes are filling fast, so visit tsc.edu and apply today.
Elevation, AT4, AT4X, Denali. Case closed. Fruia GMC, we're professional grade.
Back we go once again to hear from, Luke Fruia, Buick GMC and Cadillac. So it's interesting as well. I'm Jacob Young. This is Real Sports Live Network. It's interesting. We're staying, of course, with the soccer topic. One thing that does actually affect the RGV here, with the soccer, of course, for the summer league that is done is with the RGV Red Crowns. And so the RGV Red Crowns, of course, in Harlingen, Texas, not too far off of, I guess, the almost new downtown district in a way. What I mean by that is where you have the restaurants like the Logan's Roadhouse, the Longhorn Steakhouse, the hotels around that area, not too far, close to the city center near the police station. The Boys and Girls Club, I believe is what it's called. Right next to it is where the White Wings used to play. And that location has been changed into none other than a soccer field. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. What do I mean by it being on the soccer field? Well, it's this. The RGV Red Crowns, of course, were formed not too long ago, at least in the public's eye. And the biggest thing is that, owner Jamal Kobe Fayad has created that culture kind of that year and was successful, but the league was still in its very, very early days. It's called the League for Clubs. The League for Clubs, of course, back last year had a lot of teams from Dallas, had a lot of teams, about a team from Houston, and then it had a team from the RGV with a team from Laredo. So that was pretty interesting. And now, of course, this year we're seeing more teams from Austin, more teams from Houston. That's That's the coolest part in San Antonio. That this year they've officially switched to where it's going to be from the RGV, the furthest that they're going to have to drive for this team is going to be about only more than just over 5 hours. Meaning it's not going to be as bad as heading all the way up north to Dallas for them to play. And they just announced the team, Westlake FC up in Austin. So that's going to help with, of course, the divisions. That's how it's going to be. In the league itself, there's a couple of other divisions up in the California side of things. Something, of course, that's pretty cool, to say the least, where they have a tournament in itself. The winner of that goes to the playoffs. So you have a conference tournament to go to the playoffs. The playoffs are nationals, basically. So you win your region, you get to play in the national tournament, which is kind of cool. It's college-like, to say the least, but it's semi-professional soccer, and it's a blast. It was a blast to cover last year. I hopefully look forward to covering it this season, once again, this year, and that's going to be exciting to, once again, say the least. And we move on. For that, there's going to be some success, but I wanted to go and pivot to, of course, the NWSL. Reason, of course, being there's been a lot of talk with it. We will go back to exactly what has really started, and from really the start. What has happened, basically, Trinity Rodman, one of the NWSL's brightest stars, and the U.S. Women's National Team forward, has been at the center of a contract fight that's exposed tensions between the Washington Spirit, the league office, and the Players Union. Here's everything that, well, we really need to know. And you go from the start. Washington Spirit and Rodman had tried to agree on a principle on a multi-million-dollar deal, widely reported as a 4-year contract with escalators that would push average compensation to roughly $1 million per year, making it the largest in NWSL history. If paid as structured. The club says the deal was designed to keep Rodman in Washington amid heavy European interest. And that's the truth. Rodman is interested in going up to Europe, or not necessarily Rodman's interested in going up to Europe. She's interested in staying in the NWSL, but there's so much money overseas right now to FC Barcelona, to Real Madrid, to, of course, Chelsea, to Arsenal, to Tottenham even, Manchester City, Manchester United, and even, of course, Liverpool. That's just in Europe, or that's just in England. Plus, there's chances that she could go and play in the Champions League if she goes overseas, because there's the Women's Champions League. That's something that the U.S. does not have. They don't have this type of Champions League. They don't have a real championship tournament. They try to play against teams. They have a little Champions tournament, but it's nothing compared to the prestigious Champions League. And even for the women's side, that's very prestigious. When Arsenal won last year, that was massive. So we go back to it. The biggest thing, of course, with the Trinity Rodman situation now is a waiting game, because, as we'll break down, the NWSL vetoed the proposal to Trinity Rodman, yes, from the Washington Spirit. And so the NWSL, of course, intervened. The NWSL office rejected the agreement. The league officials said the offer ran a full of league salary rules and the single entity structure that gives the league a role in approving contracts. That was the whole thing. Really, it was going to be over the salary cap limit. It was going to be a whole thing. And so, but the NWSLPA comes in and says, you can't veto this. It's against the free agency rights that were signed with the last CBA with the NWSLPA. So they filed a grievance. And so the salary cap structure just gets a little interesting, to say the least. But as things have officially kind of at stake really quickly. At stake is more than one contract. The Rodman saga is forcing the NWSL to confront whether its current financial architecture can keep top American talent at home or whether the league must modernize its roster rules to compete on the global stage. So that's basically getting you all up to speed on what has happened now on the Trinity Rodman contract update. The NWSL was trying to the NWSL has basically said that they were going to have another structure in place with itself, and that would be with the designated player role. We have yet to hear anything that if they would sign, if the NWSLPA would sign it, it's looking like that's going to be a case in itself. So that's very exciting, to say the least, once again. Now we get into the bigger story that I really wanted to talk about here because it's the truth. Sophia Wilson was another player for the Portland Thorns in the waiting game, kind of. And this was the biggest thing. We go all the way with the start. Contract situation. Of course, if you don't know who Sophia Wilson is, well, she is a U.S. Women's National Team star, was on the 2023 Women's World Cup roster with the U.S. Women's National Team. Before that, of course, was still with the Portland Thorns. Scored one of the match-winning goals for the Portland Thorns to win their third championship. On top of that, was able to break through as one of the key stars, and in my eyes, could be bigger than Alex Morgan very soon from now. Of course, there's three players that are right up front with that. And that's, of course, with her, you have Trinity Rodman, and you have none other than Mallory Swanson as the three forwards that are killing it right now. Anyways, you go on with this whole entire thing. Sophia Wilson, of course, has been playing for the Portland Thorns. She's loved it there, has been very successful. This past season, she did not play with the Portland Thorns. She had to sit out due to, well, she's officially become a mother, which is awesome to see. Of course, is, well, her and Michael Wilson they got married, they were expecting, they have had a kid, and she's taken this season off being a mother, which is awesome to see. You go back onto it, she was Golden Boot and MVP. She's won the league honors like the NWSL Golden Boot and MVP and has been among the league's highest paid players. Her existing contract structure, this is where things start. Wilson's existing Portland contract structure was negotiated in 2024 and includes guaranteed salary for 2024 and 25. So she had that guaranteed no matter what. A player option for 2026 means she gets to decide whether to stay with Portland for that season under predefined salary terms. That's the biggest thing right now there to remember. Predetermined salary terms. The presence of this player option is central to the current situation. 3, the player option decision, recent development of December 2025, according to multiple sources, multiple fan-sourced reports, citing credible industry sources. Wilson exercised her 2026 player option, meaning she has chosen to stay with the Portland Thorns for the 2026 season. The option reportedly carries a record-level salary in the NWSL, around $1 million, a figure reflecting ongoing contract value escalation in the league. This is a significant development because it confirms she will be on Portland's roster in 2026. It suggests she will be compensated at one of the highest reported salaries in league history. This decision means Wilson didn't immediately enter free agency this offseason as she could have if she declined that option. The context around the contract, why the league and Portland have been tight-lipped, well, until Wilson activated her player option, Portland's official statements were limited to saying they were in talks with her. They were in discussions about her contract status. There was uncertainty about whether she would exercise the player option or negotiate a new long-term deal. And there's reasons with this because they got rid of Hina Sagita, which is one of the key players in the midfield. They got rid of a couple of other players that they did not keep. Sophia Wilson made some comments about that whole entire thing, even on her Instagram. And we had seen those comments for the Portland Thorns. They weren't, she wasn't happy. She didn't seem happy to be in Portland this season, even though she didn't play, because of just the way that things were handled. Portland Thorns got rid of their head coach this season as well after losing in the semifinals instead of going to the finals with a team that's loaded, that has a loaded midfield with the likes of Samantha Coffey, with the likes of Olivia Moultrie, who I believe had been moved up front more, and the likes of even Castellanos. The rest of the team were a bit shaky, to say the least. It didn't feel like they locked in a lot of firepower. Lindsay Heaps was already gone. They, of course, Christine Sinclair retired. Morgan Weaver hasn't been able to be healthy for a long time because of ACL tears. So this team was filled with injury prones and was filled with a lot of uncertainty of how this team would look. They got on a hot streak halfway through the season, though, and that was very positive for this team. Now, with all that being said, there was a lot of uncertainty throughout this whole entire season. Fans, including myself, were holding our breath saying, is she going to return to Portland? Is she going to leave? Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. She is staying. So the league-wide contract salary rules context, and this is where things get very interesting. The NWSL has been grappling with broader contract and salary issues, most notably around salary cap restrictions and star players' ability to earn top-tier compensation, such as what Trinity Rodman's situations we just talked about has highlighted. While Wilson's situation isn't a dispute with the league, it does take place against this backdrop of evolving pay rules, including potential mechanisms like high-impact or designated player slots to allow greater star compensation. These broader rule changes could impact future negotiations. And this is very, very true. What does happen next? Wilson is contracted to play with Portland in 2026 after exercising her option. Unless she negotiates a new contract extension, she could become a free agent after the 2026 season, opening the door to move elsewhere within the NWSL, Europe, or otherwise. Long-term contract, of course. Portland and Wilson may still negotiate a long-term deal that extends beyond 2026, especially given her star status and market value. Broader effects, her decision influences how Portland and its roster and budget under league salary regulations. It also impacts fan expectations and Portland's competitive outlook as the Thorns rebuild after recent turmoil. And this is true. Like I said, they don't have a head coach at the moment. They don't have a manager. They don't have a lot of these players. They got rid of a lot of them. So they have to rebuild with star power. That includes with Sophia Wilson. I do believe that with that 2026, there's a whole entire year now for Sophia Wilson and the club to decide on a contract, especially after this gives the Trinity Rodman situation a chance to kind of simmer and open up those doors for Sophia Wilson to get paid exactly what she deserves for a long-term contract, because she does not want to leave Portland with her family right there. Michael Wilson plays for the Arizona Cardinals, so it's not too far away from really Portland. To be exact, it's a quick, probably 2-hour flight at most, if anything. And so she has family, she has friends that I believe live in Portland, so there's positivity about this whole entire thing for Sophia Wilson. So there's a lot of rebuild that the Portland Thorns have to do. I believe that they will be able to do it. They're not the only teams that are going to be looking for rebuilds, but this is exciting. The left back situation seems a bit problematic for the Thorns, but it looks like they'll most likely be able to bring on some more talent from there. And the midfield is set. It's going to be probably the right wings and left wings that they may have to look out once it's all done, depending on how Weaver is, because she is a left winger. And it's going to look exactly like that. So very excited for the outlook on the season. Very excited to want to cover the Thorns, want to cover all of this soccer coming up in February. It's not too long from now. We're going to have all of it. So very exciting. We're going to take a break. When we return, we will talk college football for our final time. We'll be right back after that. Stay tuned.
Kenny Perez came from a small town in Texas. At Kenny Perez Law, we won't stop fighting until our clients get what's rightfully theirs. We're right by your side, no matter what. Call Kenny Perez Injury Lawyers today, 956-999-1111.
Turn your passion into a powerful career at Texas Southmost College. Our automotive technology program will train you in everything from maintenance to full vehicle systems repair. Earn a certificate or associate degree and get certified to work as a C maintenance or B-level technician. You'll be guided by seasoned instructors who have decades of real-world automotive experience, helping you get ready to roll into the industry. So take the wheel and apply today at tsc.edu.
Coming back live once again here from Luke Fruia, Buick GMC and Cadillac, as we are just about to close out the show with the final 10 minutes or so left in this one. About 12 minutes, actually. We'll finish at 3:02 or so. And that'll be our full hour. So let's talk about, well, college football. We wanted to talk about it, of course, bringing you all, of course, that coverage, that beautiful coverage of it. And it's very exciting. Yes, FCS playoffs are going on, but the first round of the CFP to be exact, the college football playoffs are this weekend, and we have some amazing slate of games. We have about 3, I believe, this weekend that will set us up for the final 8 teams. It's a 12-team playoff. So we have Texas A&M hosting the Miami, Florida Hurricanes. So the Aggies hosting the Hurricanes. Then, well, really the first game, I should say. Let's start with this one. Oklahoma Sooners, for the second time this season, getting to host the Alabama Crimson Tide. That should be an interesting game. Like we mentioned, Texas A&M versus Miami, Florida. And then, in the first round, we have the none other then Oregon Ducks taking on James Madison University. And then I don't know where they will fit in the Ole Miss and Tulane game. But I know that one is also coming up this weekend as well. Let me make sure on that exactly. For the Ole Miss Rebels football team, or the Sharks, or whatever they're called now. Which obviously they're still called the Rebels, but they will play this Saturday. It is at 2:30 p.m., so it will be right after the Texas A&M football game, to be exact. Probably on TBS or somewhere like that. Maybe on ESPN. We'll wait and see. Either way, they get to play against the Ole Miss Rebels, or Tulane gets to play against the Ole Miss Rebels. The Ole Miss Rebels played against them earlier this season and beat them 45-10 at home. That was September 20th. So both of them get to face off against each other once again. The Tulane Green Wave, they get to make the playoffs due to a G5 lock, and they won their conference, which is always exciting. Same goes for, of course, James Madison University. That's how they made it into the playoffs with a great record as well. It makes things interesting because, well, the argument is that Tulane and James Madison don't deserve to be there because they're G5s. That's the worst argument people have by far, because, oh, they're G5. The game's going to be close, most likely. Both teams have been playing pretty well. I don't know about the James Madison University game, but we saw when no G5s were there last year, and there were blowouts with teams that went undefeated or close to being undefeated. The Penn State game last year was not a good one. The Clemson Tigers versus Texas Longhorns game was not close, or was close actually at the end. There was a lot of things onto it. The Tennessee game as well. In the first round, you're probably going to have a blowout. But in the first round as well, you're going to have some close games. It's going to work out perfectly. I'd rather see this than having 3 lost teams make the playoffs, by far. There's no need for them to have 3 losses. The Alabama Crimson Tide, their 3rd loss, yes, technically came. It was in the SEC Championship. I don't know. You maybe had BYU in that one, but BYU didn't hold it close. It's a whole thing. Again, these are your 12 teams. This is exciting. This is where things get very intense as well. I will be there at Kyle Field this upcoming Saturday, so I will leave, of course, on Friday, and that's going to be very exciting. I get to witness a playoff game, a playoff Kyle Field atmosphere at 11 a.m. Central Time. I cannot wait for that game. The weather is going to be absolutely perfect, and like I said, it's going to be great. This is what we've all wanted for a while. I think, yes, they could probably add 16 teams into the college football playoff, not 24. And they'd still have the same problem. It's not about how many teams you add. It's about how the system works to get the correct 12 teams into the playoffs. That's the truth. They're testing this out this year. It's the second year for the 12-team playoff. There's going to be growing pains. They've changed the committee several times. We'll see how this one goes. Notre Dame not making the playoffs, completely fair. Notre Dame did the same thing against A&M in 2020 in the 4-team playoff. So the arguments there just, in my eyes, don't work. It's going to be exciting. Let's break down the A&M Miami Hurricanes game, because that's the one that I've, of course, have been looking at the most. For the Miami Hurricanes, they come in here, they're 3.5-point underdogs. They're 3.5-point underdogs for this game. As for Texas A&M Aggies, of course, they are expected to win by 3. It should be a close game, but at the same time, Miami, the Hurricanes have come from the ACC. For a while, we thought that the ACC would not get in because of the Duke Blue Devils winning the ACC championship instead of the Virginia Commodores going. So let's go to what we've seen so far. The Aggies come in here not having to play in the SEC championship game, being able to just kind of chill their way through, which has been perfect. And the Aggies had 3 weeks or a couple of weeks basically of healing up. Playing at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium is kind of cursed for the one reason and one reason only, that it has turf. No school should ever have turf on their field in college, especially in the SEC. That's a lot of people's takes, including Texas fans. But you move on to it. The Aggies, of course, have played well. They played well in their SEC schedule. As for the Miami Hurricanes with their 2 losses, let's quickly look at the Miami Florida University football team's standings, or football team's schedule, and just go to show who they played. They played Pitt in the championship, 138, or they played Pitt on the 29th, 138-7. They played Virginia Tech, 134-17. They played Miami, Florida, 41-7. They played Syracuse, 138-10. They lost to SMU, 26-20. They played Miami, They played Stanford, 142-7. They played against Louisville, lost 24-21. They played Florida State, eked out a win, 28-22. They played Miami, they played Florida, the Florida Gators, and won 26-7. So the whole point is the way that they played this season, it's not that impressive. They beat Notre Dame by 3 in the first game of the season. Only by 3. Of course, Notre Dame, they were a solid team this season. So that's their only real win that they've had this year. The rest of the games, really, you could definitely say there's been a lot more upset. But that's just my take. Well, anyways, they're getting set up for something here at Luke Fruia Motors, so we're just going to wrap it up here a bit early because, yes, it's been very fun, and we're looking forward to all of it this weekend. And most likely, we will see you all in 2026 as, well, it's been a fun year of being able to cover all of this. And yes, well, that's going to do it. I've been Jacob Young. This has been a Real Sports Live presentation, and until next time.